Why is it so hard to leave an emotionally abusive relationship? In this video, I want to ask that question, and also I have a couple of other questions around it. On average, people return to abusive relationships 8 times. It's like an addiction. This trauma runs deeply. Welcome to The Divorce Sanctuary. I'm Elizabeth, author of Finding Lily and the A to Z of emotional abuse. On this channel, I talk about healing from emotional abuse and divorcing emotionally from the abuser. I want to remind you that love should be unconditional and divorcing emotionally is life-changing. I want to help you understand and process what's happening on the inside and help you discover the best tools to heal on a deeper level, becoming the best version of yourself. If you're new to the channel, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you're returning, welcome back and thank you. And everything described in this video or discussed in this video, you'll find in the description box below. You might be in the throes of confusion, and it might be that it's at the end of the relationship, or this might have happened to you years ago and you still haven't recovered from it, dragging the emotional trauma from relationship to relationship. Emotional abuse is so hard to heal from. And that's what I'm going to talk about, why it's so difficult and what you can do. And if you stay to the end, I'm going to share with you some tips on how to keep out of the relationship and heal. Why are these relationships so hard to heal from? The damage caused puts you in a state of confusion. You had no idea the abuse was taking place. Like Chinese water torture, it happened very, very slowly and it turned you insane. There is something very magical about you, something pure, your energy, your creativity, your laughter. There was something very unique about what the abuser wanted and what they needed. You were handpicked and groomed. Everything you said, everything you did was watched and noted. And the interest in you was not exactly what you thought it was. You were swept off your feet with compliments, gifts, days out, meals out. Your every need was catered for. You may have woken in the morning to find a message from them. This was deliberate, ensuring that they were the first thing that you thought about. And perhaps they did the same thing at the end of the day. I, like many people, have been hurt by a toxic or emotionally abusive person. In my case, it's actually not just one. I've managed to notch up a few relationships. There's a wounding to the soul that you don't believe you will ever recover from. And if you're able to divorce emotionally from the abuser, you will see this as a gift. Now, I've explained what they saw in you. What did you see in them? In my online workshop, It Stops Here, I give you different tools to have honest conversations with yourself. And this is going to be key to understanding what happened. Later in the video, I'll also share some ideas, tips and tools. Was it Mary Poppins that said, let's start at the very beginning? Children are sponges and live in a theta state up until they're about 7 or 8 years old. You were a child once. What we experience in childhood up until that age is fixed in place. We get a lot of our beliefs in this time. If you've experienced any wounding at this age, it might affect how you see yourself or how you feel about yourself. In my video on narcissistic parents, I highlighted some of the traits and spoke about the original wounds. So I asked the question, is it possible if you had a parent who wasn't available, have you held on for years waiting for maybe their love, attention, approval, maybe all three? Perhaps each time something happens, you rush to the parent to help them, waiting again for attention, love, approval, and receiving nothing in return. So my next question is, could it be possible the same is happening in other relationships, that you're holding on, waiting for the love, attention, approval because you were trained to do that? And this question might not fit your situation, but you can play with the words and please be honest with yourself. Are you hanging onto the relationship, not wanting to let go because you were trained to keep waiting or for the attention, love and approval from your partner? Could the choice in partner be due to the wounding that you experienced. In the love bombing stage, you might have been given the attention that you seeked, or you might have felt seen and heard in a way that you've never experienced before. There could be a few different reasons that make it really hard to leave. So you might not want to give up on the relationship. You may have been trained to keep chasing the love and attention. Another reason could be the chemical addiction that takes place. When you're in or recovering from an emotionally abusive or toxic relationship, the way you're feeling could be due to the chemicals raging around your body. Think of a teenager who can't communicate and their emotions are everywhere. You're not quite sure when they open their mouths who you're going to get. That might sound familiar. When I started my journey, a lot of people were talking about the addiction to dopamine, but my interest was the role of oxytocin that it plays in these relationships as well. It's a bonding hormone that helps us create trust. When I was doing the research for my book, The A to Z of Emotional Abuse, I came across an article which cited some work from Dr. Helen Fisher at Rutgers University. And her team discovered that love can be broken down, or romantic love can be broken down into 3 categories, which is lust, attraction, and attachment. And each one has a different set of hormones. So lust is testosterone and estrogen, attraction is dopamine, norepinephrine and serotonin, and attachment is oxytocin and vasopressin. Lust is driven by desire for sexual gratification. The hypothalamus plays a role in this, stimulating the production of the sex hormones, estrogen and testosterone. And men and women have both. We can lust after someone we're attracted to, and a person can lust after another without it being reciprocated. Attraction involves the pathways in the brain that control the reward behavior. Dopamine, which is produced in the hypothalamus, is released when we do things that make us feel good. And dopamine and norepinephrine are released when we are attracted to someone and can make us feel giddy with excitement, or when we feel a bit more energetic. It can even lead to a decrease in appetite and insomnia. Norepinephrine is also known as noradrenaline. It plays a large role in the fight and flight responses. The attraction seems to lead to a reduction in serotonin, which is the hormone known to be involved with appetite and mood. Attachment is a dormant factor in long-term relationships, and this is why my interest was so high in this chemical, oxytocin. So lust and attraction are mainly found in romantic entanglements. It's the attachment that is needed to bond friendships. It is needed for that parent-infant bonding or any relationship where trust is needed. Dopamine is the hormone responsible for the brain's reward center, and there's a lot of research that has been carried out on dopamine pathways and addiction. The same regions that light up when we're attracted to someone also light up when a person takes cocaine. Cocaine maintains the dopamine signaling for much longer, and the brain regions also light up when we become addicted to material goods as well. And when we become emotionally dependent on our partners. And you may hear people describe the emotions at the end of an emotionally abusive relationship are like an addict going through withdrawal. Too much dopamine in a relationship can underlie unhealthy emotional dependence on our partners. And it's the same with oxytocin. They say too much of a good thing can actually be bad for you. And in this case, it's true. Studies on drugs such as MDMA and GHB show that oxytocin may be the hormone behind the feel-good, sociable effects these chemicals produce, causing the user to disassociate from their environment and act out of character, even recklessly. Oxytocin works as a bonding hormone, reinforcing the positive feelings we feel towards the people we love, reminding us why we like these people, increasing our affection towards them. And this was a manufactured relationship, so the bonding that took place was different from a normal, healthy relationship. And because of this, it moved too quickly through the stages of lust and attraction. And you may have seen the red flags, but you were giddy with the chemical rushes. Researchers discovered that oxytocin is in fact two-faced and is responsible for strengthening a stressful situation, experiencing triggers of fear and anxiety. So you might not want to give up on the relationship. So you might have been trained to keep chasing the love and attention. It could be the chemical addiction that takes place. Another reason could be the cognitive dissonance, gaslighting, triangulation, or other manipulative tools that were used to convince you that you were the problem and not their bad behaviours. I wrote my book, The A to Z of Emotional Abuse, to describe some of the words that you hear on this journey as you enter this new place of learning and healing. It describes the techniques that we use to manipulate you. And if you're experiencing really powerful traumatic reactions to anything, please seek medical help. The abuser gets you addicted to themselves, the person. They are your drug of choice. And like with any other substance that's toxic, at some point you have to say enough is enough. And at that point you might find it easy to walk away, or you might struggle with withdrawal. Many describe it like being weaned off heroin. If you haven't divorced them emotionally, you might still be trying to make sense of the feelings of overwhelm and trying to balance your emotions. And there might be part of you that would be willing to accept them back. Trauma bonding is horrific. It keeps you trapped. And these people are masters of manipulation. You believe what they were telling you. They reminded you constantly how amazing you were, and they told you how you were meant to be together. You were soulmates, and they told you that no one ever had understood them the way that you did. They will always play the victim, and they carefully play a game and trigger responses within you. And one of the ways to deal with this is to go no contact. But if you can't go no contact, then please watch my video on responding, not reacting. A lot of people coming out of this type of relationship experience complex post-traumatic stress disorder or adrenal fatigue, fear and trigger responses. They experience nightmares and flashbacks. The emotions are horrific, and only someone that's actually gone through this type of abuse will understand why a person would go back, as it does feel safer in the relationship than out. You've been told that you can't survive without them. In fact, this fear has been passed through generation to generation. Rejection from a tribe was always dangerous. Our tribe were there to protect us when we were under threat of being attacked by a tiger or other animal. Rejection from the tribe meant death. But this is an inbuilt fear. So us being rejected from this relationship creates that fear. We've been stripped of every single emotion, and we've been taken down to an infantile state. So we've basically got a very young child running our lives. And due to the manipulation tactics and the need to control and have power over another person, your power and control was handed over to the abuser. They created situations where you trusted them, and now you're left not knowing how to survive. And this is why it feels so secure being in an abusive relationship, because you don't know how to survive out of it. So your fairy tale turned into a nightmare. Your prince or princess has ridden off with another person who quite conveniently was able to step into your shoes, and you've been left broke and broken, picking up the pieces. And you start to see who they are, but in a flash your thoughts spiral out of control, and you're back to justifying their behavior, believing they were right, and you start wondering if you had said or done something differently if you'd be in this place. Abusers are masters of manipulation, and they use words to deceive, coerce, seduce and mislead you to gain power and control. They got you addicted to the hormones. They created an environment that felt safe to you. They broke down your boundaries. They told you you're crazy or paranoid. When you start questioning things, perhaps you're too sensitive, it's all your fault, and they will make you question yourself. And they then tell you that everybody else thinks you're crazy or insecure, or insert the most appropriate word that you heard. I said I'd give you some tools to help you. Not all of them will fit for your situation at the moment. Just take what does and leave the rest. It might be that you come back at a later time as your life changes and you work through the stages. Believe me when I say I understand what you have experienced is horrific. Each story is different, but the pattern is the same. It's idealization, devaluation, discard, and the cycle can go on for years. The longer it goes on, the more enmeshed you become, the invisible chains trapping you. But what if there was a way of turning this grit into gold? There may be a few childhood wounds, and I believe these are the reasons that you've experienced this relationship. I lost track of how many 3-year-olds, 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds that I needed to heal. Much like a verruca, which is a virus that penetrates all levels of the skin. If the full root isn't removed, it lays dormant until it's triggered again. And this is the same for the original wound. If you don't fully heal the wound, it will appear again, and you will keep meeting people who treat you in the same way. So some of the reasons you might find it hard to give up on this relationship are that you've been trained to chase love. It could be a chemical addiction. Another reason could be through the manipulation tactics, which encompass both. So if you have experienced a Hoover that was successful, please forgive yourself. Find a tribe that can help you and support you. People that have been in the same situation. You might still be trying to understand if what you've been going through is emotional abuse. Coming out of these relationships, you have more questions than answers, and it is easy to slip into rumination. The process of continually thinking about the same things, the same thoughts. They tend to be sad, dark, and you probably go over the relationship wondering if you've done something differently, said something differently. Rumination can be really dangerous to your mental health, and it prolongs your ability to think and process your emotions. Start grounding your body. Staying out of your head and staying in your body will help you process what's happened and what is happening to you. Resist the hoovering attempts. Breathing and counting helps you balance your stress hormones, but it also helps calm down your nervous system. Write out what happened. Give yourself permission to call it abuse. You may still be protecting the abuser and justifying their behavior. Why is it so hard to stay out of these relationships? Why do you want to get back in there? Because of the hormone hits, because of the training, because you might have been in a situation with a parent or a caregiver where you had to chase the attention. You might still be chasing that attention. Keep reminding yourself of the story and reminding yourself this was abuse. And when you can call it abuse, the healing speeds up. Those moments that you want to get back into that relationship, you want to reach out, is the moment that you reach in. You go inside and track down the wounds. You have these honest conversations with yourself. You don't have to talk to anybody else. Just be really honest with yourself. If you found this video helpful in some way, please like and share and subscribe. I will put the links to the videos that I've mentioned in the description box below, along with a link to my workshop, It Stops Here, where you can learn techniques to have these really honest conversations with yourself. Sending you loads and loads of love.